This is the Wise Guy Radio Show, a podcast dedicated to educating and inspiring through conversations with today's top talents in the world of glass. We will be dissecting their journeys in hopes to deliver actionable content that you, the artist, can start implementing now, helping you grow not only as a creative spirit, but also a successful artistic entrepreneur. With a little organization, relationship building, and your artistic ability, you can obtain greatness. Climb aboard, whether an artist, retail owner, or enthusiast. We have a ton of fun in store for you. Welcome to the Wise Guy Radio Show. This episode of the Wise Guy Radio Show is brought to you by Green Flash Glass. The Green Flash Glass logo is a symbol of quality because they take pride in their craftsmanship and stand behind their products. Made in the USA, Green Flash Glass builds relationships based on trust, integrity, and respect. With over 15 years of experience and an amazing team of artists, Green Flash Glass backs up their work with 100% quality guarantee, friendly responsive customer service, and high-quality products at an affordable price. For more info, go to greenflashglass.com. That's greenflashglass.com. I am in the middle of listening to my free audiobook I downloaded at audibletrial.com/WiseGuyRadio, and that's WYZGUI radio. The reason I'm saying this is because if you want to be a part of our book club that we're doing, which is our audio book club, why not go to and download your free 30-day trial at audibletrial.com, where they have over 180,000 plus publications, magazines, books, all kind of good stuff. And figure since you guys are listening to this podcast, you obviously listen to downloadable audio on your phones or iPads or computers. Go to audibletrial.com, audibletrial.com/WiseGuyRadio, audibletrial.com/WiseGuyRadio. And that's audibletrial.com/WYZGUIRadio.com. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Wise Guy Radio Show, episode number 54. This is Jay Michael, your host. Thank you so much for tuning in today. This is going to be a fun episode. It is a replay, actually, of my interview I had with Kemp Curtis. He was back on, I think, episode like 21, possibly. I did the interview and then immediately went on vacation for 2 weeks and was in the mountains and had the worst signal in the world, including the hotel's Wi-Fi sucked. So when I tried putting the show up, I couldn't edit it, and I wanted just to get the out for you guys because Kemp is 47 plus years of lampwork experience and knowledge, and I want to go ahead and get that out. And now that I have had the time to sit down and actually edit the show and remaster the sound and everything, it's done and now ready for you guys to listen to. So today is a replay. I'm going to say it's a best of, but really it's a better version of his initial episode. He originally started lampworking at Disneyland in the 60s and then went from there to open up our store where I work at now in Magic Kingdom. It's not the actual same shop I work in, but the same company, Rebus Brothers, where he trained all their employees there and then went back to California to Disneyland, was simultaneously let go from the position, and then went to Australia, which he'll tell you all about that. But he is a really awesome guy. We get into a lot of fun talk, 2,000 plus years of glass knowledge and history, and also we get into the origins of the term lampwork and where it actually came from. And Kemp's whole mission in life, besides being a glass artist, is to more or less put himself out there, and his health included, to really learn the material and the compatibility of certain products, materials, whatever it is he's working with, so that those of us out here now that are working with this glass already have someone that was a guinea pig in a sense, and now we can work the glass and not have the issues that he had. Exposure to metals and oxides and burns and all kind of stuff. So he gets into all that shit. So again, I wanted to share that with you guys because again, I think this is something that everybody that listens to the show, and I think anybody in this industry who is a glass artist, whether you're a functional glass artist, a sculptor, whatever it is you're doing, you should really hear this episode because again, Kemp Curtis is an awesome guy. I believe he just went back out to Santa Fe. I think, if I remember correctly, what he was posting, he was up in Georgia for a while and just recently moved back out west. So that being said, I also have a really, really big announcement that I have been biting my teeth and tongue and everything else in my mouth not to tell you guys, but as of right now, the Wise Guy Radio Show is officially sponsored by Mountain Glass Arts. man, I cannot tell you how awesome it is to have those guys on board. They have been, myself and Joe, who is the manager, and I'm sure everybody out here who has dealt with Mountain Glass has dealt with Joe also, who Joe's killer. He's a super awesome, knowledgeable dude. Him and I have been working together to figure out how we can really incorporate them into the show. We have all kind of ideas, including bi-weekly segments. They're going to be coming on Wednesdays, exclusive content on the newsletters, website, and also for you all in the audience that are listening to this, we will have a monthly exclusive discount on items that only you all in this audience are going to be able to get. So I cannot, again, thank them enough for coming on board. Again, Mountain Glass Arts is our newest sponsor, and they will be on board for a long time to come. And when I initially came up with this concept for this show, which was actually almost a year ago now, basically I got married, which my anniversary is here in 2 days. Today's Friday, so it's the 6th, and I got married on November 8th last year. And then about 2 weeks after that, getting back from my honeymoon, I started to come up with some ideas and thinking about doing the podcast, and then one thing led to another, and now here we are. But part of my idea was to bring on a company like Mountain Glass, to bring them on board really for the educational side of things, to discuss tools and tips and techniques, items that they carry, new product releases, all that kind of stuff. If it's a new color coming out, we can talk about the new colors. Because there are staff and employees at Mountain Glass. They are all knowledgeable. The majority of them are also glass artists, so they have all hands-on experience. Not every one of them, but the majority of them there. So if you guys have not yet bought anything from Mountain Glass, what the hell are you waiting for? Just go to mountainglass.com and sign up and join their little thing they have there. You got to register as a purchaser, as a create your own account. But it also allows you to keep track of all of your purchases so that at the end of the quarter or however you file your taxes, you can then print out your little sales thingy and you will have exactly what you spent on the year, which is awesome. So they're pretty good guys. They just recently moved into a brand new facility warehouse, so they had to expand because they are growing. And now they've gotten settled in, which is part of what took a little bit time for us to get this going. I actually went up there back in August and with the family, and when we were on a little vacation and visited them. It was actually the same time that this Kemp Curtis interview was going out. Kind of ironic here. But I got to go up there to their place and got to meet everybody in person, which was awesome. They're all amazing, beautiful, humble humans that run the company and work there. And Joe and I, in person, really were brainstorming and coming up with ideas, and we were both just so pumped up about this whole idea of how, as this podcast is really a new format, a new platform for the glass industry, whether you're advertising or just coming on to talk about yourself as an artist or a company or whatever. And so they moved and got settled in, and now here we are. So bada bing, bada boom. There you go. Super pumped. And wanted to announce that their month sale this year, month of November, they are offering 35% off North Star First Quality Glass. Just go on to their website and you put in their little code for North Star. You get 35% off. And then also for the soft glass workers out there, the lamp workers, they're offering double helix glass right now, COE 104 sale. 20% off as well. Code for North Star is just put in North Star, NORTHSTAR. And then for the double helix, it's actually D Helix, so it's DHELIX. So when you go to check out there, they'll ask you for a coupon, put that in there in the code, and you'll get that, and you'll be good to go. You also will be getting their Get It Quick sales, which they usually launch out usually Wednesday morning. You get up if you have subscribed to their website and the newsletter. You'll get that update on Wednesday mornings. I will be putting it out a day before, which is also one of the new things that are exclusive for you guys. We'll get it in the newsletter and also on my Instagram page as well. So anything and everything that has to do with Mountain Glass, I will be posting, promoting, and letting you all know about it before the rest of the country and the world knows about it because, again, we now have exclusive rights and inside to the company. We're going to be doing a little show, a special show for Black Friday, which we are going to be offering our first discount for you guys, and I'm going to be interviewing Joe and talking to him about his background and how he got into the company, and then also the history of Mountain Glass, the two guys that are behind the artists that started the company, and the origins of them and where they started it as well. So, again, I just can't thank them enough, and I'm super pumped. And let's not forget our other sponsor for the podcast, which was my very first sponsor and will always be special to this show, is Green Flash Glass out of Tallahassee, Florida. And all of you guys out there that are retail owners, have smoke shops, if you purchase orders of $1,000 or more, they offer free shipping. They're also now offering for the rest of 2015 for all you smoke shops and retail owners and those that have a wholesale license, whether you have an Instagram page, you have a retail store, whatever you do for buying glass as a wholesaler. For the rest of 2015, they are now offering a 10% discount on all orders, again, until the end of this year, which is basically December 31st. So get your orders in at greenflashglass.com. That's greenflashglass.com. And again, guys, thank you again for tuning in, for subscribing to the show. If you have not yet subscribed to the podcast, just go to your iTunes and or Stitcher. I believe on Stitcher you have to like it or add it to your favorites, but on iTunes you can subscribe. And if you have not subscribed yet, please do. It'll make it easier for you to get my downloads of the show. Once the show has downloaded onto your phone, device, iPad, laptop, computer, whatever you have. If you don't want to have it on there for a long time, you can just delete it and then just go to the feed to listen to previous shows if you'd like. Also, you can go on there to iTunes. Please go there and leave me a review. If you want to leave me a 5-star review, that'd be awesome. And a little write-up on there, too. Tell me how much you love the show. Leave me an honest critique. I want to really hear what you guys think about how I'm doing. And because, again, this show is by me, but it's for everybody out there in this audience. Whether you're a connoisseur, a glass artist, a retail owner, you teach the glass, whatever it is that you do, that you have some kind of hands and involvement in this industry, I want to definitely be here for you guys and get feedback, because I want to make this better as I go along, and whatever you guys need from me, I will do my best to get it to you. So again, thank you so much, Mountain Glass, for coming on board and sponsoring the show as our newest affiliate, and also Green Flash Glass. And then if you guys are also participating in our audiobook that we are doing now, the Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek, all you have to do is just go to audibletrial.com/wiseguy radio, and you can get your 30-day free trial and also get the audiobook on there for free as well. And if you don't want to continue after the 30-day free trial, just cancel it. You don't have to do anything. They do require information up front, but that just locks it in to make sure that you are legitimate and that you're not just trying to scam them or something. I'm not really sure. But again, after your 30 days is up, you can then cancel it, no problem. Just make sure you do it before your 30 days is up. Otherwise, they will then charge you for your next month. But if they do charge you, it's $15 a month, and you get like $4 a month. And I love it. I love listening to audiobooks while I'm working. Love you all very much. Thank you so much for coming on board and listening to the show today. Again, go to wiseguyradio.com, subscribe to our newsletter. I have a little giveaway we're doing, and I am actually about to go online and email the winner of our Scar Glass giveaway, where he was very gracious and is giving one of our subscribers a pennant. So those that have subscribed already and that just did recently, thank you so much for coming on board. If you guys want to continue to come on board and get inside information, just go on there and subscribe, and you will get exclusive content. And I have a little goodie thank you that I'm giving you guys for going on and doing something for me, which helps out this show. So again, hasta luego, hasta la vista, peace out, love you guys, and I will see you on next show, episode number 55. Much love, y'all take care, peace. Hey, Kemp, how are you today, buddy?
I'm doing fine, thanks, Jason.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on here. Being the fact that you are close to a 50-year lamp worker, I'm excited to bring you on not only for your knowledge, but also the fact that you have a background with Disney and sculpture, and you've been very innovative in our industry. And I love your work, by the way, too. It's very inspiring to see what you've done. So, to start off with, could you give us a kind of a brief background on who introduced you, where you got started, and where you kind of went from there?
Okay, yeah. I was trying to figure out where to start on that one. Okay, I'll go with the Disney era first. I was hired in as a at Carnation Ice Cream Parlor, scooping ice cream. And they had a glass blowing shop that was only about 3 doors down on Main Street. And in those days, Disney was a family there. And the glass blowers would come in on break, and I'd always make mistakes. I knew what each of their favorite sundaes was, and I'd say, oh, I have an order for a hot fudge sundae, no nuts. I put nuts on. Oh, I'm sorry. Dick, would you like to have a hot fudge sundae here? I have an extra. And this went on for about a year and a half, and one of the glass blowers agreed to show me how it works over at his house. His name is Reuben Duchaney. And he started teaching me some of the fundamentals of glass. He says, if I were you, I'd get in with Dick Rasmussen. Now, at that time, the shop was owned by the 2 Rasmussen brothers, Dick Rasmussen and Bill Rasmussen. And Dick Rasmussen had a son my age. And Dick started showing me it because I'd go in during my breaks and I'd go watch. he never really intended to teach me, but I'd ask questions, he'd answer. I was living in a fraternity house, and I set up a course there. So I'd go to school in the morning, go to work, practice glass blowing, bring it in, show him, and he'd give me corrections and stuff. And after about a year of that, he asked me if I wanted to quit my job and go to work for him, which I did.
Huh.
But my earliest memories, if we want to go back further, it was probably in 1929 in Boulder City in border of Nevada, California. My grandfather was a master electrician there. He ran the hydroelectric things. And we had a neighbor girl who was making jewelry out of glass. And I was interested and said, no, this is for girls. I remember that specifically. No, this is just for girls. I go, okay. And so I was always fascinated with glass. Been an artist all my life. Learned a lot of different mediums being in theater. I grew up in theater. And I was 21 time when I got in glasses. Oh, I like this medium. And from there, we can go farther with the story.
Yeah, it's amazing. From what I understand, when Walt Disney had passed away, they had canceled the leases.
7, yes.
Yeah, and so
no, that is incorrect there.
Okay.
What did happen was in '67 Walt died, and at this time Dick had a shop in competition with his brother in New Orleans Square that just opened up.
Okay.
And Bill had the shop on Main Street. I started working for both of them when they needed help. And then Bill dropped out of the scene, went to Hawaii. And so I was doing this, and during this time, I was working with the Rivas brothers, showing their glass blowers. And I had fun working with these people from all over the world, mostly Hispanic countries, Uruguay, Portugal. I mean, I can name them all. But anyway, so I'm working with these people, showing them glass blowing. They had headsets on, learning how to speak English, and on the lunch breaks, they're learning how to drive. A lot of admiration for these people. They wanted to become Americans, and they did everything. Then one day, we're in the middle of this, and Dick Curtis walked in with some of the other Disney executives, and they called me into the Alfonso's office. I said, uh-oh, what's going on? It says, we're terminating Dick's lease. He's no longer going to be in the park. We want you to take over the program. Just wait a minute, I can't go against Dick. This is Dick has lost a shop. If you want the glass blowing program to continue, you're going to have to do it. So I ended up doing it for, Rivas Brothers had the contracts, but I was their tool for Rivas to get the contract, and that gave me a whole thing up. A step toward a career, if you will.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, I was told a few months later that I had to start teaching and developing. I think they already knew this ahead of time. They had to start preparing to open up Walt Disney World in Florida. So that meant creating two entirely different staffs, one to leave in California and one to open up Disney World with.
Wow.
And so I went down there. I set a few of the glass blowers ahead of time. Then I went down there for the opening and all that. That lasted a couple of months, and then I was ready to go back to California. Got back, and then at that time, Alfonso decided to terminate me, and I was ready to leave anyway. I was not Spanish speaking. He was building it up for the family. He became a Spanish don. I mean, I admire the guy immensely for what he did.
Yeah.
He created a whole industry there. He was all about money. He was a great glass cutter. That's what all these people are teaching are glass cutters to start off with.
Right.
So this was to fill in their, the learning glass blowing was fill in so they have something to do in their off season. That's what I was told. In reality, they knew it was coming up ahead of time. They figured it, and that was a tool. I have no problem with that, and we both got something out of the deal, and there's no hard feelings about the parting relationship. Then got to, as I say, Disney World, then I left, opened up a shop on my own over at the Disney Hotel. And there some Australians came in, and for some reason they had advanced knowledge of me. They gave me a handful of opals. Training in college was mineralogy and crystallography, so I'm looking at these opals. Would you like to start a program up in Australia? We've got something started there. And I started a big business. Says, no, I don't think so. And I says, look, we're going to send one of our guys over. He's going around the world here on a honeymoon. Let's talk to you, Rick. And that's Richard Clemens.
Okay.
You see on Facebook, he pops up occasionally. He and I were basically the heart and soul of Argyle Glass in Australia. So anyway, I went down there, $27 in my pocket, the other side of the world, not quite knowing what to expect. And that's a 26-year run, living in two countries same time.
Wow.
That was great.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Yeah, Australia, you didn't have to explain if you're an artist. They didn't ask you more questions. Great. In this country, oh, well, what are you going to do for a living? Very different attitude toward art between that country and this country.
Huh. Interesting. So when you started off with the lamp work, was it all stitch work that you were doing?
Yes. We call it knitting back then, but yes, it was a stitch work. And that was a technique derived actually from the Burano people in Italy.
Right.
And also the Germans. But they did it with soft glass. It didn't hold together, so they always painted their glass with shellac afterwards to hold it together.
Ah, okay.
So artistically it looked great, but archivally, no, it didn't hold together. But yes, it was stitching there. And then I started teaching myself solids, and that was quite a process there. Thinking of, if I could only do this, or if I only do that, if I could only do a bird. And then you work at them. Then you go back to doing comfort zone. Those little stitchwork animals and stuff. So it was a kind of a one step forward, one step back, another step forward. So you added to your arsenal there, so to speak, by adding skills on one day at a time.
Neat. So you started off doing little birds and kind of transitioned into other animals and figures?
Yeah, a lot of little Disney animals and stuff like that, yes.
Did you get into and did you eventually do character work for them?
Yes, and that actually led to an interesting problem. After Walt had died, Walt, in his wisdom here, he formed Disney has several corporations, and not just Disney. There are several involved. And one company there was called Red Law, which is Walter spelled backwards.
Ah.
Okay, that basically owned the monorail. That was Walt's personal corporation within the park. Keep in mind, his brother Roy ran all the money. Walt was the idea man. Roy's the only person that could tell Walt no. And so Walt formed this Red Law, and within Red Law, he folded the rights to the licensing on his characters, which Disney did not know about, the larger corporation.
Right.
After he died, they discovered this, and then they started trying to monetize it, and they wanted us, actually the Rebus brothers, to start paying royalty on all the Disney characters we're making. They wanted another cut on top of the 37% they're taking in right up front. And I'm sitting there, wait a minute, this Walt would have not been that way, You don't muck with a mouse.
Yeah.
But so anyway, there are business stories behind the scenes in all this development here, which I was aware of. And it changed drastically after Walt and Roy died. It turned very corporate. Even Rebus got more corporate, and so obviously I left. That was not my mindset. I was trying to be an artist. I was trying to teach these people to be artists, and they wanted me to teach them only to make one or two things and just make production pieces without thinking, without challenging their authority.
Huh. Fascinating. That's
you might have, since you're Disney, you might have been seeing some of the residual effects down the road here.
Yeah, for sure. We're now limited to where, at one point they had the warehouse there. They still had the warehouse, but they had the artists in there working. But now we're strictly just on stage doing production. And
yes,
and Miguel's still there on stage on Main Street, still doing his stitch work.
Now that would be Miguelita, as they call them? Yep. Okay. I'm the old school. I was on all their weddings and funerals and all that. I knew the old guys. I never met the kids.
Okay. Yeah, it's fascinating though, seeing the tradition and that type of style work continuing to be done.
Yes.
And the level that it's being done at, even to today. With the new torches and stuff coming out, and the stitch work is a technique that I've tried. I've never actually been shown it and like hands-on shown it. Just from seeing some YouTube videos and whatever, and it is not easy to learn at first. It's amazing.
No, there's the running stitch, which you're probably alluding to.
Yep.
And then there's the loop stitch. Very few of us left in this country can do that. Now, as a side here, I'm now affiliating with the Melting Point of Sedona, a gallery there, very well capitalized, very nice people there, and I may become a teacher down there down the road. And they're asking for what they're now calling the old school techniques. I would be teaching those techniques.
Nice.
There's some new techniques out there that I've seen develop. This kind of a basket type technique. And at first I looked at it and thought, what's this, And I could see all the inherent problems in making it. But you didn't have to spend the 2 years learning all this lacing that I've done. This is complicated. But anyway, yes, my intention is to move to Sedona here this fall, and eventually I'll be passing these skills on. There is nobody passing those skills on at this point, and the format they have there is a venue that I would like to teach in.
Heck yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I need to just get myself signed up for that when that happens, because that's, like you're saying, it's dying art.
Because if they're seeing interesting, then they're going to want me to do it. Right now, it's a 17-month waiting list for a teacher to come in to teach there.
Wow.
International artists. Astrid Riddell's there. I'm trying to get Irina Sergeeva from St. Petersburg. There's some beautiful glass being made in Russia. And on the Facebook I'm on, I'm in touch with all these people, all the ones I know of from Japan, Russia, Denmark, Germany, Italy, Mexico. Miguel Guinea and I are still very regular contacts. And a lot of what you see at Disneyland is a result of Miguel Guinea and my early influence there.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely am. I've always been intrigued by the technique, and it's something that, being the fact that it is very old and traditional, and like you're saying, it's kind of a dying technique, I definitely want to learn how to do that, and on a regular basis as well.
I did pass those skills on to a family in Nashville, Indiana. They're called the Lawrence Family Glass Blowers. They know all of those skills, but they have not been passing it on. They're very tight with their information.
Huh.
But they do some beautiful work there, among the best in the country. But now I'm seeing these new skills coming up. Sorry, I'm jumping around here.
Oh, no, it's okay.
But there's some phenomenal work coming out there. I saw one of this new basket weaving technique. There was in Sedona, and it started off with that weave, then it flared off. It was almost like a seashell, then flared off and all these tentacles drifting off. Very delicate, commercial. I can hardly see it because how can you ship the thing? But the gracefulness and the animation of it is just incredibly beautiful.
Neat. Huh. Interesting.
So there are, more new techniques are emerging. I'm still old school here. I admire the new one. I'm not going to probably take the time to learn it too much because I'm 72 now. I'm going to kind of coast out, just make a living, and my main goal is now to help the next generation.
Awesome. Well, we all appreciate that for sure. Absolutely. So have you gotten into any actual hand-blown glass, in terms of hollow work?
Oh, yes. I only started doing hollow work because of the pipe industry. After 2001, whenever, the Twin Towers incident, I lost most of the galleries I was selling to. Most of them went broke. People, Palm Springs, Sedona, on West Coast, okay. Palm Springs, Las Vegas, all those. And then somebody told me about pipes, and I just on my way back from Australia, went across the bay from San Francisco to Berkeley, and I saw all these pipes and going, oh my God, where did this come from? I thought I knew all the glass blowers in the country, or if I didn't know them, I could look at the work and tell you who they learned from.
Yep.
And then all this new stuff was hit me, and I'm sitting there, my God. And then I started realizing that the color industry, Paul Troutman's North Star Glass and all that, it was the pipe makers that was driving it.
Yeah, for sure.
Because we're not using the colors that much. And I'm sitting here. Now I understand why all these colors are coming on the market. It was for a whole different ballgame here.
Yep.
It took me 2 to 3 years to get up to skill in the pipe making. I'm switching back now into the borosilicate solids, which I'm already starting to put into the melting point. So the borosilicate is where I want to go anyway, but the sculpture is where I'm trying to go back into. Doing Southwest themes. When I move there, I'm going to find my color palette changing. I'm doing a lot of South Beach, Florida colors right now, the pastels. And a lot of my pastels, by the way, are coming from the origin glass. I melt those down, draw them out into rods, and then use those because those pastels, when I lay them next to each other, are so pretty, and the girls really like my colors on that.
Nice.
That's touching on another question that you were asking about, but yeah, those are. But when I get out west, then I'll be changing over to Southwest colors.
Okay.
The area that I'm living in influences my color choices.
Nice. Yeah, that makes total sense. But, going back to the innovation in the borosilicate color palette, when I started back in 99 and we had 5 or 6 colors available, and jade green was the only green available, and it cracked in everything that you used, I mean, it was terrible.
Yeah, that has an incompatibility problem. With the colors, any glass there, with the borals, if you have more than a 1.5% difference in the coefficient, and you try working it internally, it will pull apart every time. That jade green is made with chromium. We used to make that by hand back in the 70s, all those colors, the cobalt. There are only a few colors available. But now you've got all these companies and all these variations. I actually know about some other metals and forms of the metals that I don't think they've tried yet that I think would be of interest. I'll talk to those, talk about that, like a Roger Paramore and all that, how these different forms of the metals, because, you have your nitrates and your oxides and all that, but there's old class, which I'll just call it right up, the sulfides. If you work with the sulfides, then you get a whole range of different colors again. How stable it will be at the boil temperatures, I'm not sure, but it's an area to explore.
Yeah, for sure. Now, part of my show is, besides the glass education, I'm going to be bringing on specialists like doctors and lawyers and stuff to talk about different areas, in the fields. And one of my guests is going to be a doctor that I'm talking to that specializes in heavy metal toxins in the blood. Do you know of any kind of concern, being as long as you've been doing this, with the exposure to the color? Because I know, like, your background with the clear glass, you did a lot of gold fuming and.
Yes, that was a derivative. My major in college is mineralogy and crystallography. So this fuming stuff that I came up with back in late 70s, early 80s, along with the son of a friend of mine, Rex Kravitz, was involved on that. And he had a very crude, and I took it and says, okay, we were mucking around with this because we're splashing gold down and stuff. And he started showing that, hey, there might be some commercial value in this. So, yes, I was aware of very much of the metals there. I can't have employees doing the stuff I do because OSHA would be all over my case.
Right.
We were, as an aside on that, in Mexico, we started doing a lot of the gold plating and the lace work and stuff. And then we started platinum plating. Well, we're getting our workers down in Mexico quite sick. So I switched them away from platinum into palladium. That seemed to have taken care of that problem. Palladium was a better metal to get the same color, but it didn't have the toxic effect. I have a brother in the medical field, and he started looking at stuff, and he says, you're working with some really bad actors here. We're talking about carcinic agents, neurological toxins. Paul Troutman's got on my case years ago because I work with low safety stuff, and he was more aware of that. And I didn't give a bloody damn about the safety. I was just, my thing was to prove that the colors could work. So people like him with this North Star and later Glass Alchemy, Henry, their chemist, they were more concerned with that. So they worked it in a more safer environment. I was not a safety conscious, to reiterate. I was just proving that these colors, these metals will work. Fuming was the result of that. And then Bob Snodgrass took it. I published that in Glassline, I think it was in 88. I haven't seen any documentation of Snodgrass doing fuming before 94. He says he came up with it. He did come up with color change. He did it for pipes. I had no knowledge of pipes until 99, well after he doing this. And they're saying color change, that's just silver fuming. So I'd like to see somebody, other than myself, whatever, do the research here. Where did this fuming actually come up with? I don't think it was from the Europeans. Europeans were doing something called flash, which is dipping it in a different color, making a thin coating, and you engrave through that. The fuming was a whole different ballgame. And then I see what they're doing now, the internal casing of fuming. By publishing it back there, it created a whole new world, and I'm sitting there, these guys have run with it, and I love it, seeing how the directions they've taken it.
Yeah,
that was the idea of publishing and sharing. Before that, nobody shared.
Yeah,
you were
exactly.
secret. You got in trouble for sharing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I says, I came up with the technique. I can share it because I came up with it. Excuse me.
That's awesome. Now, where was I going to go with that? Oh, yeah. So, it's with I've seen like old Venetian chandeliers, for instance. That have the leaves and stuff on there, and they almost have like a smoke. Like they were like they held the glass over a smoke, kind of an amber tint to the glass. Is that?
Yes, that's silver. Yes, there was. Okay, you did bring up a point that there was another person who brought in the color before we were doing it, and that was a guy named John Lejeune. He was a small player in the larger picture of it, but he's from Belgium, and he started showing me techniques where he would coat the glass with a metallic, the substance that would attract metal. And then you put it in an oven, and you put the silver in there in a solution form, and then it was called an ion transfer process. And then the silver migrated and stained the glass.
Okay, interesting.
You could call that fuming. That was the first that I knew of, and fuming, but we didn't call it that then. That was called silver ionization.
Okay.
And the Venetians did that. Their glass, you cannot pass the fire over. You know, you can't really work a lot of it in the flame.
Right.
You know, the Murano glass, yes, you could, but a lot of that. We get into some real iffy things here, depending on the base metal that's in the glass. Like if there's lead in there to make the glass more brilliant. If you work with a fire, it's going to gray it out and black it out.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of chemistry involved here, which, according to the museum, I did a lot of research there at their library about some of this stuff, and the people who did it. That back when I was writing glass line articles for them, I was there at the Recording Museum, and they pointed the directions that the other writers were looking at, so they gave me a heads up on where to look for this stuff.
Interesting. Yeah, I've always been fascinated with the old history, you know, going back hundreds of years, you know, to the back in the Venetians and the Muranos. So the Venetians and the Murano glass artists, they used a different chemistry in their composition of glass?
Yes, the Venetians were Venetians, were the first to come up with that brilliant copper red with the germanium dioxide. That was their secret. If you shared that secret off the island, you're going to get killed.
Right.
But they made the ingots. They made all these colors, and then National Geographic explored this years ago. I don't have the reference material in front of me, but they explored all the trade routes. You can date the glass by the colors because new metals came on the market. The Venetians would take it and would color and see the watercolors and the painter. Same thing. You could date it by the metals that were in their pigments.
Wow.
Okay, and then so they would take these ingots and ship them out to the other places around there, Egypt and all the Muslim countries there, the Mideast. But that was where it was made, and then the materials came to them. The finished product went out, and then those glass blowers, to reiterate, would take that and make it into the finished product.
Fascinating. Yeah, because even like I've seen old videos of artists in Israel, you know, and like the Middle Eastern areas, you know, working out of these little tiny homemade furnaces, you know, but they're doing the same kind of old traditional techniques. It's neat seeing that. Fascinating.
By the way, those techniques actually came out of Anatolia, the Greek. And there's been some statements that were made that maybe Abraham was a glass blower because he had an updraft furnace that had to have to make that type of glass, and he was a weapons maker, so he would have had to have a furnace. And they have discovered the sites of these old furnaces, but that would have migrated into Egypt. They're glass makers before they got to Egypt. That was one of the skills there. I mean, I'm Jewish. We call ourselves, the slaves, but really we're kind of servants of the royalty there. But we had all these skills, and those skills dropped off after the Jewish left Israel. Their glass-making skills dropped off. The talent went with the Exodus.
Right. Yeah, because like you look at the old, you know, tombs and stuff in Egypt and the pyramids. You know, you see cobalt glass and stuff that's being used as.
Now, in those days, it wasn't really called glass. It was called faience. That's F-A-E-I-E-N-C-E.
Okay.
Which is it was cast like a putty clay. It was glass-like. It wasn't a fully formed glass yet.
Okay.
But it was made to emulate turquoise and lapis and all that. That was the original purpose of that glass. And then, sorry, we're going to get into history here, but
no, I'm all about it.
Okay. Then they started taking sand and dipping it into those vats of molten glass and pulling it out. And then you knocked the sand out and you had hollow glass vessels. This was called Etruscan ware, which is also Middle East there. Okay. And then later on they learned that they didn't need to do the sand casting. When you had your age of metal coming in more, now they started building those furnace with the metal punning rods and all. That's when I would say the true birth of glass blowing.
Right.
The word glass blowing is very specific here. Glass making, that's explored in a book called The Glass Makers, a 2,000-Year Odyssey of the Jews, written by a guy named Samuel Karinsky.
Okay.
I have problems with this research. I went to the Corning Library, and they told me, and this goes back to Israel, yes, he's very valid and stuff, but his argument is too much in supposition based. This was here, therefore this must have happened. I do not like to buy this therefore. Yes, it was happening, but I didn't like the therefore part. But he's very close on it, and I think that needs to be researched a little farther there. But he's onto something here, which would really rewrite the history of glass blowing as we know it.
Yeah, I mean, I could sit here and talk history with you all day. I mean, it's part of my fascination just growing up ever since I was a kid. I've always enjoyed ancient history and even, getting into American history. But, when I started blowing glass myself, I did a lot of research trying to find the origins of lamp working. And, there was a lot of theories out there, but like, have you found any like specific, like where the term comes from, because I have some concepts and ideas myself, but, is there...
Yes, I could tell you that very specifically. And the Germans, to me, were really the first of the what's called the lamp workers. The term lamp workers was in the old days they had oil burning or alcohol lamps, with the wick on them, and then you had the copper tubes with foot bellows, and you blew air into those fires and through the fire. That created a hot zone in between the fires, somewhat like our modern-day crossfires, but even older technology. Okay, so you worked in the middle. That was called lamp working because these were oil or basically oil-burning lamps. They had air blown in from the side that you controlled to rehydrate with foot pedals, and then you shaped your stuff inside. That was all soft glass. That would have to be 104, if not higher, somewhere in that range.
Okay.
Does that help you at all?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the exact source of the term, is lamp working from those oil lamps.
Fascinating. Yeah, it makes total sense because I know, like, when I teach...
Italians came in on it, but I really think the Germans were first there.
Okay.
It's a give or take argument that you could argue either way. But the start of modern-day lamp working, as we know, I saw a lot of it in the early 50s, early 60s. They were done in the 40s and all that. By the German glass blowers where they had their, that's actually from Lauscha, those glasses, Lauscha, East Germany.
Okay.
But yeah, the opalescent glasses that they used for making eyeballs, the medical eyeballs and stuff.
Yep.
Color changing there where they took it from a light tan into a chocolate brown. That would all be classical lamp working techniques. And a lot of our skills that we had that were started to develop in this country in the 50s. Remember, borosilicate was not available to the artists until after World War II.
Okay.
So when I got in it, we were actually the first generation in on it. I was the first one outside the family to learn it, but that was derived after this. But the techniques used in were derivatives, more, I'd say, from the Germans than the Italians. You could argue Italians, but in my experience of looking at it, I'm going to say the Germans were actually the bigger influence.
Interesting. So when the borosilicate was initially developed, was it more or less for, tactical purposes or for, like, I guess I should say, like, industry, for windshields and that kind of stuff before it got into...
No, not windshield, laboratory glass blower.
Laboratory, okay.
Windshields with tempered glass.
Okay.
That was not the same formula as the borosilicate. That was a soda lime glass, but you heated it up and then floated it over a mercury surface, however, that rapidly cooled it. So the surface shrank, and you did that both surfaces. Now you had all this stress that was going in one direction from the inside to, from one side to the other, but not across. Mm-hmm. So you set your stresses up in a very programmed line here, made it very resistant to breaking. If it was going to break, it would break into chunks, not sharp edges and all that.
Right.
That's what's called tempered glass, anyway.
Right.
But that's a cooling. It's a physical process of how you cool the glass. That's what created it. That was not a borosilicate.
Okay.
The modern-day Pyrex that's sold out there is not borosilicate. It is a tempered glass. And if you pull it out of the oven and put it on a coal burner, that thing is going to blow on you. You will actually feel and hear it vibrate, and then it's going to explode. It is not the borosilicate that we know of. They cheated.
Huh. Fascinating. Yeah, because I kind of had the idea of the scientific uses back in the day of it. But speaking of the scientific, it's interesting to see the scientific lamp workers and the lathe workers that have transitioned into pipe making and taken the scientific techniques and are using it in pipe making now. It's the intricacy that's being used and this art that's being made.
Yes, the pipe makers evolved. The pipe makers did evolve off of the scientific workers more than ours. Now those guys are trying to go back and learn our sculptural techniques.
Right.
They've gone quite a ways, very far with what they've done. But now there's this whole skill base of what I have and others have that they need to get to that next level again. But yes, they did evolve from the scientific with their precision, their lathes and all that. I've even seen them working with calipers and stuff. I'm saying, okay,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm over in Germany. We're doing all this stuff freeform. They're sitting there, what? You're breaking all the rules. This is yes. And the next generation is going to break down the rules that we created.
Right.
This is how it's supposed to work. So we were going with fluid movements, and the Germans were very meticulous and mechanically inclined. The Italians had a much more developed sense of art and flowing curves and all that. But the Germans were very rigid and very precise. Different influences, different backgrounds.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I know
Yeah, the scientific people is German all the way.
Okay. So when I first started, I was taught by a gentleman artist named Gordon Key, who was a 35-year sculptor. And when he showed me, he didn't use any tools at all. It was all glass. It was his torch and his glass. And even the tools he used were basically, punty rods and stuff. And when I went on my own and was learning, I was almost afraid to use tools. I shouldn't say afraid, but I didn't want to break that tradition. But then I started getting into using tools and using graphite and using my butter knife or a spoon for shaping and carving. And it seemed like once I broke out of the mold of the old tradition into teaching myself some newer stuff, it really changed the landscape of what I was able to do. And now with all the new tools that are out there, like you're saying, there's guys using calipers for making sure everything's openings are correct, lengths are correct, everything matches. And even some classes I've taken recently were from guys that worked in the furnaces, and they're taking their furnace techniques into the lampworks trade now, using jacks and using the tools of the trades from the soft glass workers. It's fascinating.
You brought up an interesting point there. In the early days of, I was aware of the glass blowing because I watched it in the 50s. Harold Hacker, I watched him in the 50s and not Spray Farm. So I was well aware of all this stuff going on. The tools we had then were not manufactured. You had to make your own. They just were not available for the type of techniques we were doing. It wasn't until, I'm going to have to say again, the pipe makers, and all of a sudden all these shops were catering now to the artists. In the 60s, there was no supplier for the artists. We bought our glass, our raw materials from scientific companies. They were not aware, nor did they appreciate the art market. It was beneath them, their dignity. We were inferior. But then Harold Hacker, and then you had the Homer Hoyt in Colorado, started opening up more for the artists. And then you had the studio glass movement of the offhand people. That's an Australian term. I forget what they call it in this country. Pot workers or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
My terminology is more Australian than American anyway. But anyway, so they started thinking, well, we're inferior because we didn't make our own colors, and but they were buying ingots and mixing in, just like the old guys. And then we started respecting each other's work, and then the collaboration started. And then the studio movement of Lundgren and Littleton and all that, there's books out there in the 70s. And that was late 70s that what the studio glass movement came from.
Right.
That's where Correa and Ori and Bloom and all that, they came out of that studio. We were still a separate entity, and we were not really interested in what each other was doing until the early 80s. Then that's when the conversation opened up.
Interesting.
And also, we started looking at each other's tools. Like you said, butter knife. My favorite knife is actually called a boating knife that has a reticulated curve.
Okay.
So I can carve like fur over glass through, that curved surface, because you have a convex curve and you have a concave curve. So I can take this and I can work it all the way around the glass with a nice smooth cut where I don't have to keep repositioning it.
Yeah, makes sense.
And that's still on my desk there. And it's called a boning knife. If you look for it, you'll see that S-shaped curve on the cutting edge.
Okay.
That is an absolutely great tool for carving glass.
Okay, I'll have to get one.
Nothing better.
Heck yeah. when I started doing my character work for Disney, Jimmy Dills is one of our character workers, and he was shown by the guy that taught him that, to get the curved shapes of like Mickey's face and his eyes, that a spoon, using a spoon was like one of the best things you can use because of that same idea of having the concave and the convex curves and stuff.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
By the way, you brought up another one. I've taken the brass tubes that you buy from the hobby stores for making fuel lines on the model airplanes.
Yep.
Then I started reshaping the ends on that. Like I would take that full circle, and I'd take my needle nose pliers and stick it in, and I'd flatten one side. So I'd have this horseshoe shape round there, and then a flat surface. And I use that on the eyes for Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. it gave a smile to the eyes. It lifted it up instead of a straight circle. If you don't look for it, you're not going to see it. But if you look closer, you see that.
Interesting.
For the cats, I would make a pinch on each side of it. So I had this circle in the middle, but I had these projections opposite each other sticking out. That gave me the corners of the cat eyes and stuff. It's a very subtle move that customers are not going to see, but it makes a difference in how they react to it.
Fascinating.
The whole Disney thing was about proportions here. The head is much bigger in proportion to the body. Everything is built up of circles and ovals. So, yes, that's still very inherent in my work. I can't take that out. I mean, I'm a Disney background, very simple.
Yeah. So with today's glass lamp worker, it's like you're talking about, the way the pipe movement's gone and kind of how it's at a peak right now. With today's modern lamp worker, a lot of the guys have gotten in, and girls too, have gotten in to the market.
Girls weren't there. They were actually there back then, but they're kept hidden. You didn't put them. I put the first girl glass blower at Disneyland there, and I was caught some static for that, but I put her up there on stage.
Nice. Heck yeah.
They were there, but they're in the background. They weren't allowed to be in front of people. This is supposed to be the superior man skill.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, that's why I enjoy seeing the female movement. Even especially in the pipe industry, the stuff that the women are doing, they're giving it, a very feminine
the girls
style.
bring a different energy to it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree. So with those that are in there now, I try to talk to them to say, like, don't pigeonhole yourself as just being a pipe maker. My idea is to be a glass artist, so you can take this medium and make whatever the hell you want to make out of it. Whether it's making figurines or
exactly. That's what this evolved into. Yes, we started off. We took it as far as we could at the time. Then I took a breath. The next group took it farther. Then the older ones had to play catch up again. Okay, you up the ante here.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's what fresh blood does. It brings it in, so otherwise it's going to get stale and die off.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, because a lot of the younger generation that's in there, they see these super high end pieces being made, and they want to start making those like right away. So they start making these pieces, and I've seen young glass artists that have been doing this for maybe a year, that are making scientific work, but that's kind of where they've stopped. They're not able to go backwards to make a ball of glass or make a marble or make a figure or even make a basic hand pipe. So it's frustrating for me, because I think that when I teach off by starting off making a blob of glass, and then you take that blob of glass and then you shape it out, and as you evolve your techniques. So do you have any like recommendations in terms of I shouldn't say step by step process, but like.
Well, actually, no. You're actually in the ballpark there. You're right on it. And I was going to bring this up before you even said that. But when I start teaching, I'm going to be teaching fundamental skills. You're going to make a perfect sphere. You're going to have it within a certain size range. And then I'll add on. And then after I'm showing that skill, I'll show what that thing could be made into. Okay, then you get them all going on that. Okay, now you're going to introduce another technique, still a fundamental. So they can add on to the repertoire. You're absolutely right when you said they jump right in. They do not have any idea of the craftsmanship here or the technical side of it, but they know where they want to go when they get there. But then there's craftsmanship, mechanical flaws in glass, like breakages or stuff, or stresses. And that sets in. Now they sit back, I've got to learn this. But they're already trying to make money out here, and they don't want to waste their time not making money by going back to fundamentals. So I want to start them off with fundamentals and then lead them, showing them how to make a profitable life as an artist, but build up from the bottom, not start off at the top.
Yeah,
I agree. Let them see the top, but to start off with your building blocks, because without those, you're going to be handicapped later on.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, especially nowadays, because there's so much money. Like we have $1 billion industry now, just in the pipe industry, and with
it is
with the laws changing, and I mean, who knows where medical marijuana or even legalization across the board federally may go, but. It's so easy to want to just be like, okay, I'm going to do this for the money instead of doing this for the art and the love and the craft of what we're doing, So, like, I do the same thing, when I teach. I teach a basic fundamental class, and then it evolves into going from a ball of glass to making a flower to making a little perfume bottle, and then taking that flower that you learn how to make and making a stopper for the perfume bottle. So you can take all these ideas, and put them together and have a final product instead of just jumping into making, Z instead of starting at A.
There's backing up a little bit. There's one little factor I think you missed, and that was what's driving the pipe maker. and that was the Joe Cool factor. Oh, this is cool.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't about the art or the other thing. It was, I can be the coolest guy in the block if I'm making pipes.
Right, yeah, it's kind of a trendy.
So you could say ego, but I'd rather use the word Joe Cool factor.
Right.
Now you got to take them there. Okay, now you're interested. We got your attention. Now let's show you how to be a glass blower.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Yeah, I've heard the term referred to them as glass holes. You know, some of the people out there that, you know, their ego is bigger than their artwork.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's fascinating.
My interest is the artist, the one that wants to elevate this as an art form and take it where places we haven't gone before. You can always take it better,
Mm-hmm.
but I look for the innovator, the one that's going to say, "Oh, let me see if I can bring this influence." Maybe I bring a lot of ceramic background into glass. That's where these overglazed colors they came up with, what they call lusters.
Mm-hmm.
That was borrowed from the ceramic people. And I'm seeing other techniques that's borrowed from ceramic people being brought in. There's other skills that, yes, some of those skills might be valid in what we're doing. Let's play with this and see what happens.
Yeah, I agree. I know myself. I started in ceramics before I started glass. I went to school for clay, and I took a lot of the sculptural knowledge that I learned working with clay, and even just the science involved in the glazing and
Yes.
the annealing, or, you know, not really annealing, but, you know, cooking and baking your clay into my glass.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the science has been a part of what I've always been intrigued by, besides the art of it. You know, so it's fun hearing you talking about the origins of where a lot of this started, coming from the ceramic people and what have you.
Yeah. By the way, we didn't have annealing ovens until the 70s.
Interesting.
We didn't anneal anything. If anything, Dick did show me how to plane anneal, which is a tedious process. But we really learned heat control, how to make an item so that you didn't have to come back and reheat a certain spot, because now you set up a stress. But we did not have we had fundamental basic ones early 70s, but they didn't fully anneal it. They were just to keep the chamber warm, but they didn't get up to annealing temperatures. And then Jim Thingwall and I started doing stuff. He was from the Disney thing here. He published the glass line. He started manufacturing a line of glass kilns, and he bought his kilns from the same company I was, and he's modifying them more for the glass blowers. But now we have a truly functional annealing oven. And that wasn't until mid-70s, I believe that was.
Huh, interesting.
And then also at the same time, I started introducing sandblasting into glass. And then I had to re-anneal after sandblasting, because you remove the surface of glass. All the strength is actually in a surface, believe it or not. You sandblast it or chemically abrade it, you remove the strength, and you need to re-anneal it to reestablish that surface. Otherwise, it's going to develop these little maidenhair cracks and end up breaking your piece down the road.
Right. So even if it has a textured surface from after sandblasting, after you anneal it, it re-strengthens it?
Yeah, you got to re-anneal it, yes. Fascinating.
Yeah, because I know, like, you know, you can put the tiniest little scratch in a glass, and you can snap it in half. You know, it's amazing.
Now, that goes back to what I was saying about tempered glass. Okay, it's very strong, but if you put a scratch in it, then it loses its strength, and it'll crumble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so that's to reiterate exactly what you're just saying there. You remove the surface, now you got a problem.
Yeah, exactly. Huh. So you mind if we get into a little business talk?
Oh, go ahead. Go for it. Yeah.
Okay.
Without the business side, you're not an artist, because you're not going to make money.
Yeah, I agree.
You can't pay your bills.
Yeah. So
let's go for the business side.
Yeah. So you know, getting started, you know, I always recommend that those that get into this industry, if they have a job, to go ahead and keep the job until they can get to a point to where they can make a consistent cash flow. You know, whether they're selling through a distributor or doing art shows or what have you. But do you have any, like, you know, fundamental, you know, foundational kind of things for them?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I actually do there. The very first thing that I would suggest when you're starting to ask those questions, it means you're ready for this now. Go to your community college or whatever, or if you need to, go get the books. But there's three separate disciplines here that I would like to see the emerging artists take up. That's one of them is accounting, you know, the principles of accounting. Mm-hmm. Then you have your small business administration and entrepreneuring. Okay, those can be taught in 3 classes bundled together, where you can take all 3 at the same time. The reason I'm saying entrepreneuring is you're generally going to be a startup business.
Right.
It tells you how to do a cash flow, and that's what the accounting and the other stuff does. So you can start laying it down. Okay, this is what it's going to cost me. This is what I can sell for. All of a sudden, you're going to look here and say, uh-oh, I'm going to lose money. This is not going to work. You've learned it before you put your money in, before you've lost. On the other hand, you can know that'll teach you how to price an item. You know what your costing factor is. You have this other curve here that tells you the more out of an item you make, the cheaper it's going to be to produce it. That's a standard curve in business. So I think that might be called a learner's curve. I'm not sure. But it's LER, not LEAR. Yeah, but anyway, but as the more of it you make, the cost drops down. And this is why these companies go to Asia. Okay, if I can reduce my labor costs here, I get this piece made for 10 cents. I got to pay an artist $2 a make. It's a no-brainer. Okay, that profit margin is now not mine. I'm not giving it away. They think that that's margins is theirs if they grab it.
Right.
So you need to know that for plotting your own, or if you're wholesaling or working for somebody else. You know, these people have the same expense. Like at Disneyland, it's 37%. Now you got to pay your employees. You've got to pay your materials and all these other costs. You're now in a situation where you have to price it 4 to 5 times the price you paid for it to make money.
Right.
The artist sits there screaming bloody murder. They're making all the money. They don't see, if they don't have this background here, of why that money is going out there.
Yeah, I agree. Like when I started doing my character work, I'm making Olaf. He's from Frozen, little snowman, and I'm using solid white glass to make him, and I know the cost of that glass because I've been using it myself. And I sat down with my manager to try to figure out what the retail was going to be, and we started off at a pretty low price point on it. And because of supply and demand, and knowing that Disney gets a cut, and I get my cut, and they have rent to pay, and everything else, they were actually losing money on the item. So over the year that I've made this guy, it's gone from $45 retail, now it's $85 retail. So now they can actually make a profit on this piece. And you know, it's as you get into supply and demand, myself personally, my prices have gone up over 16 years of doing this. Not only because I've been doing it for 16 years, but because of supply and demand and inflation and, expenses and everything else. And, like when I started doing my pricing for items, I would figure out what it cost. And then say it cost me, $1 to make. And then I would try to do like a multiplication of 3 to 6 on what the retail side would be. And then divide that in 2, which would be the wholesale. So if I was selling something for $10 retail, I would wholesale it for $5. But then I started dealing with a distributor, and then you have the distributor gets his cut. So then you got to knock off even more off your price. So, but over the years, I always found it was beneficial to go through a distributor because it saved me time from having to go on the road and sell my work. So
I'd like to add an aside into there. When you use a distributor, you're going to find that your product range is going to drop down and down to only your top 3 sellers. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to find others to do that. So you're going to find yourself gradually working yourself out of a market down to something where this person's not worth as much money. You're only getting a few dollars a month out of them, whereas before you got a lot. But they're only going to the top sellers ones they can get the best margin out of.
Right.
So that handicaps you as an artist because now you only have a very limited range you can work in.
Yeah,
now you're no longer an artist. You're just a craftsman making products.
Right, I agree. But I did that myself just because it was kind of like my bread and butter type of thing. But I set myself up with 3 different distributors, and all 3 distributors had their own line of product that I sold them that was exclusive, in a sense. Because I knew that whole idea of pricing yourself and out of the market more or less on your items. So, or they would take your item and go to somebody else,
There's you have to look at all of them. You have your distributor, a direct selling to the customer. Now, like I can't give advice on this direct stuff that I'm seeing so much on the internet where they're selling directly. Facebook's trying to throw blocks at you. eBay's trying to throw blocks at you, trying to limit what you can do. Mm-hmm. That's a whole different spectrum that I can't give any advice on because I'm not literate in that area. So these newcomers, they have a whole different thing they have to explore for themselves. I can't help you there. But selling to a shop, that's more predictable. Selling directly, you have your market's more limited. With the bigger internet thing, your market's expansive, and you could do custom work there too, which I don't like to do. I like to do my own designs and not try and interpret somebody else's and see all that disappointment or whatever when it didn't come out exactly how they visualized it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the downside of it. However, you can make a lot more money doing that per piece. So the marketing here is a whole different ballgame. I'm trying to go into basics here of the basic marketing here. You're going to sell at a trade show where you know how much it's going to cost you for the show. Then you're going to have to know how much I have to sell before it breaks even here. Like in the mainstream retailing for department stores, they call the day after Thanksgiving, Black Friday, or whatever it is, because that's the first day of the year they're actually making a profit. Everything else before that, they're only just doing things. So they have to make their profit between Thanksgiving and Christmas. That's
right,
where
exactly.
So you have to apply that curve in too. What is your season you're going to sell at? Maybe you have an item that will sell during this season, and you'll have to switch to a different product line for that season.
Correct. Yeah, I agree.
There's a lot of marketing there. There's a gray area. You have to be flexible, and only experience can help you on that.
Yeah, exactly.
There's not going to be a formula. There's not a formula that's going to tell you exactly how to do it.
Yeah, like in Florida, for instance, we have our Saturday morning markets or the trade markets or the craft markets, but a lot of times they're only open from October to May because of the heat we have here. People aren't going to go out and shop at when it's 90 degrees out at 8 o'clock in the morning in the summertime. Yeah. So, like you're saying, you got to be able to keep your doors open through the summertime to then make all your money through the season. But now with the way the pipe industry has gone. With the trade shows with Champs and Age and the Big Show.
I've not been to one of those, yeah.
Yeah, they're now 2 to 3 times a year, and there's even more that are growing. So it's almost to a point, to me personally, I think it's getting oversaturated with the trade shows.
That's what I said earlier.
That's
at the top of the curve, and it's going to be downhill after this.
Yeah.
There could be more talent out there than the market can handle.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of the conversation that's been going on is... But, then I look at, the product, the pipe itself is designed for those that are 18 and up, and there's kids that are younger than 18 that are starting to get involved, with that stuff or admiring the glass. And then once they turn 18, they go out and they buy their first pipe. But, every day there's several million,
What world do you live in? They get their big brother or their mother to buy it.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Parents have had pipes from me for their kids.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. But but my point is that that every day there's several million 18-year-olds becoming 18 in a sense. So like the market seems like every day it's constantly having this new wave of customer coming in. You
brought up an interesting point there, if you allow me here on this one.
Yeah.
The magic age group to sell in is a 16-year-old to 30-year-old. After that, they're not buying for themselves much anymore.
Right.
That being said, the product line, if I was a young one getting into the business, I'd be looking at making the glass jewelry, like the pendants and stuff that still have the cool factor. It's sold to the pipe stores and all that. So you already have your market built for, and you don't have to have the stigma, so to speak, of making pipes. But you can make these cool things and do all these wild things to it and play. And yes, there's a market for that. And that's just emerging. That's not at its peak yet. So there's room to play there. And especially for the younger ones, they can wear these big pendants around, and everybody else is going to want them. And the marketing is already a hit.
Yeah, I agree. I agree because I know when I started, I started off by making jewelry. When I first started doing my glass craft, I worked at the Renaissance Festival, and I did a lot of jewelry there. And that's where I learned my trade was by making pendants over and over and over again. But now, like you're saying, there's this brand new open market of pendant.
Oversized pendants, big ones that are flashy.
Yeah, people love it, and so it's a great idea there. What you're saying is,
and the profit margin will be good on it. There's plenty of room to make a profit.
Yeah, and especially now too with the newer opal industry that's coming out with the synthetic opals. And
sorry, the last phrase with the newer what?
The new opals that are coming out.
Yeah.
They're a lot easier to use compared to what they were back in the day. Even though they still have a failure rate to them, but it seems like they definitely have a nice shine to them. They work better, and they increase the value of what you're looking for, of your items as well.
Yes.
You know, so
yeah, it's an evolving market. I mean, yes, I'm from this market from the 50s, 60s, 70s. I'm still making a living. I'm still having fun with it. I'm still relevant. I mean, the younger ones still ask me how to do this or that. So it's not like I'm put out to pasture quite yet. Maybe another 6 months or a year. I was having to live far away from my kids, enough so I can go visit the grandkids, but not close enough that they're going to stick me in a retirement home with a bunch of old biddies.
Well, you can sit there and do demonstrations for them all day if that ever happened.
Oh, God. Yeah. Hell, death is better than that.
Hilarious. So just with the I don't know what kind of I guess I should ask, what kind of bookkeeping do you do? Do you have an accountant that you work with, or do you do all the stuff yourself?
Sorry, just a second, Jason. I lost my hearing again here.
It's okay. With the business stuff, in terms of bookkeeping and keeping track of stuff, do you do your own accounting, or do you have someone that you use?
Okay. Yeah, I'll be point blank on this one. I am terrible with money. It goes into my pocket, not in my pocket. When I was doing best, when I had the shop in Australia, well, the thing going there, that lady was my best friend. We raised a family together. We never slept together. We kept the business there and family and friends and all that. But she had all the money. I had enough money so I could go to the pub, have a beer, but not enough money to get in trouble with. I was just watching out for your wife's interest, maybe. And in Las Vegas, I had a major studio there with 7 glass floors working for me there. I brought in a lady to run it. I do not run the business side well. I'm aware of it. I can be on board of directors of nonprofits, do very well there. I just am too close to it to do my own money work. So I'm floating right now, or I haven't been married for 16 years, so I like to tell people I've been functioning for 16 years without management. Yeah, that's point. You're in the same boat, I guess. You're sitting out there with no management either.
Yeah, I'm in the same way. Yeah, like I'm married myself, and my wife,
I thought you were single. Okay.
No. I got married 3 years ago, and she's awesome. She's a teacher as well, so she's very organized, and it's taken me.
I have no brain cells on the left side of my head. They're all on the right side. There's nothing left on the left side. They were fried many years ago.
Hilarious.
But yeah, that is a problem. But I have managed to survive in spite of that. I'm not going to say thrive, but survive.
Yep.
When you're broke, you start hustling sales. I'm looking for dog food. I better make a sale. Yeah, that's a big motivator.
Yep, absolutely.
But keeping track of it, no, I'm not good at that. And even though I know in theory, I don't practice it.
Okay. Yeah, and I know that there's a lot of with modern technology. There's a lot of cloud accounting and online stuff you can use for keeping track of all your stuff.
I don't need a computer. No television, no radio, no computer. I live off the grid pretty much. Nice. I kind of like it that way. I can go out on my front porch, watch the sunset with a glass of wine or whatever, and not a bad way to go.
No, not at all. And that's...
but you're talking to other stuff. Yeah, those are tools for your generation. I just don't want to be wrapped up into that world. It's not where I want to be mentally or anything. Mm-hmm. I'm aware that it's a good tool, but I'm not availing myself of it. Okay. Now, the Facebook and stuff, yes, I'm getting to see what the other people are doing. It's like a social network. And, some people ask for help. I give it help there. So it's a social tool more than a business tool. Yeah,
I agree. Yes, the Instagrams and the Facebooks is definitely the social.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I've never even seen Instagram. I don't even know what it is.
Yeah, it's an amazing tool for this generation. The whole millennial generation that's out there. The youngers than me, and it's fascinating because like my daughter, she's 16 and she knows more about my phone than I do. I'm doing tutorial videos right now, and she's the one that's editing the videos for me. So it's fun,
Yeah, there you go. Thank you very much. I've got to get a senior to put a new relay in my annealing oven. So what the F is this? Yeah.
Exactly. Fantastic. So is there any other I don't know, I guess any kind of ideas or concepts you'd like to share with us in terms of where you're at right now with what you're doing? Actually, last we had talked about a documentary that is getting filmed right now from you.
I was hearing, but I wasn't understanding your words.
Oh, it's okay. So last we had spoke on the phone, you were talking about a documentary that is getting to be released pretty soon that covers.
Okay. The idea this is being put out, and I've seen it. I don't know how to get it to you there. I know it's in my iPad here, but it's the development of it. That was really made a 15-minute short for the pipe makers. But in reality, the director wanted to enter this in a short film contest across the country. The producer's having a little bit of financial problems right now, I believe. So it hadn't been released yet. It's been finished. And then they wanted to do a longer one, about a 45 minutes that they wanted to slam for PBS, showing the history of glass and more of the legitimate glass, so to speak, or I don't even want to use that word, non-functional.
Right.
Because, some of it can be functional. I mean, a wine glass is still functional. Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
But so that was the game plan, but because of financial constraints, that's on hold right now. It's extremely well produced that I've seen so far. It just the factors haven't come together yet for it to be released. And I'll be probably later this week calling them up again and say, look, I may be moving Sedona. Is there any more filming we need to do, or do we want to do it out there? They're very meticulous about the detail on this one to be just right before it's released. I can't pull it up on my iPhone, but I don't know how to send it down or whether they would want me to, because they don't want this exposed before they have it shows. Otherwise, it wouldn't be eligible for competition.
Oh, okay. Nice.
But so that's in the works, and that would be filed in with the Corning Museum of Glass too. That would be registered there. It would probably be available through the magazines, the Glass Line, the Glass Flow, all that, and through the supply shops. It would be the marketing is to have that video through all of those things that the younger artists would be looking for, and also the gallery people. They want to know something about the artist, so this is designed so that they can have some personal relationship to the artist that made it. It gives them more of an intimate factor.
Yeah, makes sense. So besides that documentary, are there any other current projects that you're working on?
Yes. Crap. The last sentence dropped off.
Oh, it's okay. Just besides the documentary, are there any other projects that you're currently working on?
Well, actually, it's in my head now. It's not in my hands yet, but it's in my head of the Southwest designs and stuff.
Okay.
We were talking about before the colors and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I may want to do collaboration since there's a hot glass shop here at Melting Point also. We may be I'll come up with designs where this would look good on the base part, and I can do this to go into the base, and we can do themes like painted desert with glass paintbrushes coming out of the base and stuff, with the desert colors on the base, of Japanese influence. By the way, Japanese is a major influence in my art. I really love how they tie things together. Very clean and simple, not quite abstract. It's approachable, but that's I study Japanese art. But anyway, and they can come up with ideas. Well, we do this, but could you do some lamp work items that would work with this? Not fused together, but be put together.
Right.
Because the glass systems are incompatible as far as fusing together.
Right.
I'm looking forward to that. If you're only relying on your past designs, you might as well roll up and drop dead.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm looking forward to coming up with a whole new line, because this will be a whole new environment, be working with different people, and all of a sudden the energy level will be up. You'll feed off of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something the younger generation, by the way, really has a lot better than we have. They get to sit there in these studios and work with kids, talk to each other, and see each other, and drive each other. We were all what I've been told, Shannon Norris, Snoopy, all that has told me, said, you're a wildcatter. You're one of those guys sitting in the garage by yourself, very quiet. Whereas these now, they're feeding off of each other. So it's that I think is going to explode into whole new designs there as that gets going more. But the marketing is going to have to be in place to sustain it too. That's the caveat on that.
Yeah, I agree. I find though, like a Habitat gallery down in South Florida, they went from being a fine art, high end art gallery, and they still carry that stuff, but now they're getting into the pipe shows. but they're carrying pipes that are selling for $20,000 that are actually selling to the locals there. But the locals that are buying these are multi-gazillionaires who don't use them. They just buy them because it's a beautiful piece of art that functions to smoke out of, but they don't use it to smoke out of. It just puts a smile on their face, and they can show it off to their friends.
We've always had that type in the art industry. I've got a collection here of paintings, almost all Holocaust, and post-impression, all that. These people all escaped from Hitler. But anyway, some of these artists, we're there at shows, and we're talking back and forth, and they have to pull us away. They're selling to customers. This is an investment. We're trying to talk about what goes into it, what it's saying, the technical that goes in, and the salesman. Okay, you talk customer, get the hell out of the way so I can sell it. And they're selling basically investment. This is something your kids will have increased value.
Yeah, exactly.
Something is alien to our way of thinking. Shut up and get out of here before you blow my sale. Yes, that's what you're saying in the glass. Yes, I've seen that in the fine arts. Glass is now just starting to nibble into fine arts. We were never there before, but I'm seeing that now starting to put in that category.
Yeah, it's gone from being a craft. There's always been that craft versus art concept, and it could be both.
Being an amusement, a sideshow in a circus.
Yep, exactly.
Disneyland was basically a glorified circus. Okay.
Yep.
So it's gone from being a sideshow into now being accepted as an art. That's what's happened in my 50 years at this time. I've seen that, and that's heartening to see that it's on the way up. We thought we reached a plateau, and now it's going to go up. Now this next group taking farther. This is good.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Going back to like the early '60s when Chihuly was starting to get his name out there, and
Chihuly didn't start until late '60s.
Yeah, late '60s. Yeah, and then the early '70s.
He came in really with the studio, maybe even the '70s. Okay, no, he might have started '69.
Yeah, it was. It was around that same time. Yep. Yeah,
it's close in there.
Yep. Yeah,
the studio movement. Yeah.
Yeah, we have here in St. Pete. We have a Chihuly collection that I was a part of the opening, and I did a lot of the educational training for the tours we had, and it was really fascinating to get to know his background. And he actually came in town. I got to meet him, have a couple cocktails with him, and getting to pick his brain and just kind of he's fascinated himself seeing where the lamp work movement has gone from where it started with him and, like yourself and a lot of the other artists out there to where we are now, but seeing like we're saying, going from this craft to being considered a fine art. And it's this amazing renaissance going on right now.
Chihuly has really brought us up in stature a lot. He has helped the glassblowing world out.
Yeah.
I still don't regard him as a glassblower. He's a great artist. He has all these, to me, Chihuly is Andrew Pollack meets Morano. Almost all the glassblowers Morano. And he takes, on his houseboat, spreads his canvas out on the floor and drip paints on it. And then his artists interpret that and put it into glass.
Correct. Yep, exactly.
So Disney was not a great drawer of his cartoons. He could draw credible Mickey Mouse, but he put the motions together that drew all these greatest artistic mediums together. That, to me, is what Chihuly's doing. He has created a movement. And they brought together all the different glass talents together, yes. Yeah,
I've always considered Chihuly to be the conductor and composer of the orchestra, and they're creating his music, in a sense.
But not the musician.
Right, exactly.
So I have that little spot there, yeah.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, his orchestra is creating his color and his work. But, it's fascinating, though, to see, like, he's from what I understand and from what I've met with him, he's a very introverted person. So when he would do a lot of his kind of conceptual designs, he would actually fax over his drawings to the studio. He wouldn't even go to the studio. He would just fax over an image, and then they would make some, parts and pieces.
Yeah, we got the same vibes there.
Yeah, it's.
Oh, by the way, I throw something in here since we're talking about him. People ask me who I think the best glassblower is. You get that all the time, and I have to say, without a doubt, Paul Sanker. That would be the one that I most want to work with and emulate. That guy, he took lamp working skill, all this pot glass skills, and then an absolutely drop-dead, perfect vacuum system, so there's not an unwanted drop of air, bubble of air in there. And he is the finest glassblower in the world, in my estimation. And he's out of New Jersey.
Okay.
Have you ever seen his work?
I probably have. Oh yeah, Paul Stanker. Yeah.
The
Oh yeah.
flowers and the paperweight and the roots are all intertwined, the erotic figures.
Yeah,
now you're doing like, they'll have these cubes where there might be 9 scenes in the cube.
Mm-hmm.
And each one is a little flower bouquet in itself. The guy, and he has staff there, he works a lot with the Salem Community College.
Right,
and those guys have a tremendous program.
Yeah, they do. I agree. Yeah, it's funny through Facebook. He ruffled a lot of feathers in the pipe community for through the years.
What was that again?
Paul Stankard through Facebook.
Yes.
He's kind of ruffled the feathers of a lot of glass artists or the pipe makers, I should say. He's gotten into some online battles of conversations and heated arguments over the pipe makers.
Oh.
It's interesting to see.
I never knew glass blowers had arguments with each other. That's new to me.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. You go on to his page.
Sorry, I think he's there. Yeah.
Yeah, he's.
But yes, there's ego trips on the line there. Yes, there's always going to be. No, I did this better. Or I did this first. There's always going to be that battle.
Yeah, it's funny. I agree.
But at the end of the day, was glass a better place now because we were here than where we found it?
Yep.
And I have to say for myself, yes.
Yeah, and I find you personally have been one of the guys that have helped pave these paths for the newer generations of the lamp worker.
Yeah, I was the first one through the door there, and the Innovator. Now, that actually posits another interesting argument. Who has it worse? People like us that didn't have the tools, we didn't have the infrastructure, but we had a market that we could actually fill, even though, the amusement parks, or the guys nowadays have all these tools, all these colors, all these things, but a heck of a lot more competition.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think the younger ones now have a tougher job than we did. We open the doors, but for them to make a name for themselves and to stand out and actually accomplish something, it's going to be a lot tougher.
Yeah, I agree. And it just takes a lot of work and a lot of practice and getting out there and showing off your work.
Luck.
Yeah,
we
luck.
Can't forget that factor, the word luck.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Absolutely. Well, I have a fun little thing I like to do. We call the lightning round in the show. If you want to go through that, and basically it's a couple of short questions, and the answers you can give me anywhere from 30 to 60-second answers. And the first question I was going to ask you already answered, but which was who is a living artist that you have not worked with yet, but you'd like to work with? And you said Paul Stankard.
Paul Stankard, and I've met him, and I told him to his face that I think he's the best of all of us.
Yeah.
Yes, he would be the one that, if I had my choices, who do I want to work with, be in a studio with for a week or a year or whatever, yeah, without a doubt, Paul Stankard.
Fantastic. All right, so question number 2. If you could give your beginning glass-blowing self any advice, what would it be?
Wow, okay. I want to think on that one for a second. I'm thinking, a beginning glass blower, okay. I would say, really, find somebody who can show you the fundamentals, not somebody who shows you how to make money right off the bat or make a finished product, but somebody who can walk through the strips. Safety also would be part of that, how to work your equipment and all that. Design theories. Now I'm getting my thoughts together. Find a mentor, somebody that will help you through those rough spots and stand there holding your hand or stand by you when it gets going. When the people are down, you're just another one of those or whatever. Somebody gets you up and going forward again. Yeah, find a mentor. I think that would be the advice I would leave.
Okay. What's your worst injury in the glass studio?
Oh, in the glass, I was going to say there's a difference here.
Yes.
Burns. When I'm too involved in thinking what I'm doing, or if I'm on stage there, a pretty girl's in front of me and I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing. Any of us have been up there at the Disneyland. Yes, we know that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Like I did a few months ago, I was running into some severe back pain things and a gout thing, and they gave me a prescription, which I've had for probably a year now. I very rarely take it, hydrocodone. So I took that, I was glass blowing. Next thing you know, I was working with my hand under fire without paying attention. I drew it right up in the fire, and I watched the skin blowing off. I didn't even feel it. I mean, the skin just blew off right off the top of my thumb, next to the wrist. Mm-hmm. And so automatically I turned the torch off, go inside the house, and back with glass in aloe vera. But that took a couple months to heal up. I've never had major cuts. I walk around my studio barefoot 99% of the time.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm always pulling glass out of my feet. No biggie. My feet are so calloused up, it's not good to go winter anymore.
No, I'm the same way.
But it's keeping in mind, especially if you're working on an item you're not used to, and you're trying to figure out what procedure I'm going to do here, the timing, and then you put your hand up in the fire. That's where I got hurt.
Yeah, I've done that.
And I've done that. You're going to burn yourself. You're going to cut yourself.
Yeah.
That's win, not if.
Yep. Absolutely. Awesome. So, are you a TV, a radio, or both in the studio?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you watch TV or listen to a radio, or do you do both?
No, I actually live in a total silence. I have no radio or television or computer in the house, nor in the studio. I do put my hearing aids out, and I'm deaf. Okay, I put my hearing aids in the evening when I turn my torch off. Go sit on the front porch. I have a Victorian front porch, and I put the hearing aids in so I can hear the birds. They're all settling in for the night. They've got all the feet out there. They're singing all these songs to each other about how their day had been, and they're settling in. And then they're settling their feathers down, and then you hear the tree frogs and the crickets come in. So the night evolves. That's the only time I bother trying to listen. Otherwise, I live in a total silent world.
Amazing.
I'm unusual. Almost every glass blower I know has a television or radio. How can you concentrate with that?
Yeah.
For me, like here, I can't do anything else. I'm trying to hear your voice. I cannot focus my mind on anything else but to hear. Now, when I'm in the torch, I focus completely on what's in the glass and nothing else.
Huh.
What's in the fire. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, it makes sense.
I'm an anomaly there. I don't know if anybody else like me on that works. I've been told by glass blowers around the world says you're very intense. When I turn the torch off, I can talk, we can be sociable. When it's on, forget it. You don't exist. It's only the glass that exists.
Yeah, fascinating. Fantastic. So, kind of another fun question I have here for you. If you were stranded on an island and all you had in your studio was your gases and a kiln, what 5 items would you bring?
Well, obviously, the first is going to be a torch, and I'm surprised you didn't have that on that list.
No.
With the gas in the kiln, yeah, you're going to have a torch.
Yep.
Okay. Yes, I would have tweezers. Now, I shape my own tweezers. I take those long, heavy ones at 12 inches, and I forge those over the tip of the torch by heating them up and banging them so they have curved grip surfaces on them. I would have my knife, I mentioned, my boning knife. Flattener, yeah, I need my flatteners. And a brass tooth for making the eyes. With that, I can pretty much cover everything. I mean, not the details I'd like. I mean, I have a fantastic selection of tools that I've acquired over a 50-year time period.
Mm-hmm.
And some tools I've decided to only do one thing, like to make a leaf on the plumeria plant. Just for one specific purpose that tool has. That's it. And I have a lot of those type of tools.
Interesting.
I haven't figured out what to do with my tools I figured out all my books I want to will, which I already done, will to Salem Community College. I have a collection of very rare books on glass. But my tools, I have to talk to my son and all that. What should I do with these? Because that could be a legacy or whatever. I mean, this represents the early years, so to speak, of the glass blowing of the modern glass era. Do you want them to get in other glass blowers' hands, or do you want them kind of put them into a museum? I've debated that in my head many times. I don't know how to resolve it.
Huh. Fascinating.
And maybe my kids have to decide that for me. I don't know. I'm still alive and using them, so they're not out the door yet.
Yep. The one thing that everybody forgets to answer in this question is your glasses.
What about my glasses?
You gotta have.
That was on the list you gave me, was to have my glasses. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta. You gotta have them. So, awesome.
That was on the list you gave me. By the way, on that, I don't know if you know. Yeah, you know Miguel Guinea. His father Alberto was doing glass. He's gone by now, I'm sure. But in Sonata, he had the torch aimed back over his shoulder instead of facing backwards, and he never worked with glasses. He'd take beer bottles and break them up, and slowly heat those up on rods, and he'd make little deers and stuff out of that. But in the 60s, I did see a number of glass blowers working without the glasses.
Huh.
I refuse to do that because you and I both know that glass sometimes explodes on you, and you could be out of an eye.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
But these guys, they do get cataracts because the glass protect your eyes from drying out, and from all that fire is drying out. That's what's causing cataracts. That's what I call glassblowers' eyes, the cataracts and stuff.
Yeah.
Especially from the furnace workers. So it protects you from flying objects and from the infrared ultraviolet and from the drying of the eyes. That protects. I've never seen anything saying about protecting drying the eyes. Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, I agree, because I know I was going to get contacts to wear when I work, but I'd be afraid for my eyes to get dried out and the contacts to get stuck in my eyes. So I never got them.
Yeah, I'm about 72 now, and my eyes are still fine. They're working fine. I have worn my thumbs out, though. That's what my doc said. I'm having pains in the base of my thumbs from rotating all that glass, all that heavy weight.
Mm-hmm.
So you just simply wore those joints out. So it's not affecting my work that much right now, but it affects other things I can do. I don't have full use of my grip at this point.
Interesting. Do you use any kind of shield at all in front of your torch to keep heat off you?
No, I don't. That's an interesting one there. If I can elaborate on that one.
Yeah.
Bob and Warren Hooper, I don't know if you know those names. They did some beautiful of the old world glass sculptures. The big game animals and stuff were very large. They had a large shield in front of them. That was the Didinium shield.
Mm-hmm.
That was, I'd say, 12 by 18 inches or so in front of them. They also had slings from the ceiling that they hooked their arms into their counterweight. So their arms could hold up all these. I mean, you're rotating several pounds of glass for hours there. Your shoulders are going to really hurt. So they worked the device, take that weight off their shoulders, and that glass, I think they're calling it a glass screen or something in front of them now, but it's a Didinium, so they didn't really have to have the glass because that Didinium film between two plates of glass filtered the glass out, filtered out the sodium glare of the fire out.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that was a dual-purpose thing there. It kept the heat off their body. I've had skin cancers because of the heat from not the heat, but the ultraviolet.
Mm-hmm. Living
in the mountains in Big Bear, 7,000 foot, living in Australia, no ozone there. 90% of us will get skin cancers. I'd go down to the oxygen company, fill up a metal can with liquid nitrogen, take one of those long Q-tips with the wooden handles they use in the radio industry or whatever, and I'd breathe my own skin cancers off. And, yeah, the glass shield would help prevent on that. If you're blonde hair, blue-eyed, yeah, you got to watch the skin cancer issue, too.
Yeah, I'm actually bringing...
I was
going to say, I'm bringing a dermatologist on just to talk about that exact topic, because that's a concern I have as well.
Yeah, so use sunblock and all that. Yeah, I would get that as nice as young ones. Keep a jar of your the 30 PSC, or whatever they call that, on your desk, and coat your arms and the neck and face down with that, and just do that as a ritual, and that'll solve a lot of problems.
What was this stuff called again?
I just call it SPF, sun cream protection.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if there was...
The government gives you tip free because 90% of people there are going to get skin cancer at my age because there's no ozone stopping it.
Right.
It's a very outdoor life, So government, I'm a socialist, okay. The government does take care of it. They do preventive medicine like that, not like this bloody country.
Right.
Sorry about my political anecdote there.
It's all good.
But anyway, so yeah, I would say I haven't done it. But yeah, especially when they're working with the huge torch they have now, they're storing out all of those flares. Yeah, I would have to say that's mandatory.
Yeah, I agree. Well, fantastic, Kemp. I really appreciate your time, buddy. It's been fascinating talking with you and getting some history here for everybody and for myself. And part of my whole deal with doing these interviews is I like to learn myself. So I've learned a ton today.
I hope there's something you learn. I hope if there's a difference for anybody out there that's listening to this, then the whole interview would have been worthwhile.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we've got...
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I greatly appreciate it. And I'm going to be putting up your pictures and your website. What's your website again?
It's Kemp at KempGlass. Well, okay, email is Kemp at KempGlass.com. The website is KempGlass.com. Then there's also a Facebook page that links into it. My son said some of that stuff. It hadn't been updated. The guys producing the video are supposed to, the document, they're supposed to be taking over that and keeping it updated and keeping it fresh. Things are a little out of whack right now, but they'll get back online there.
Okay.
I don't maintain that. I don't know what I'm doing there, but I will get pictures up there occasionally.
Fantastic. Well, awesome, man. I greatly appreciate your time again, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with all of us. We're all going to take all this stuff and run with it.
Jason, for doing all this. I'm glad there's somebody else helping you everyone's out.
Yeah, so, absolutely. It's my pleasure.
Okay, well, you have a good day, and I'm going to get back on the torch and mix some glass.
Sounds good. Me too. Take care.
Okay.
All right, sir.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Wise Guy Radio Show. If you have any questions, comments, or remarks, please leave them in the show notes page area where it says comments. We'll see you soon. Have a wise night.
You're listening to the Wise Guy Radio Show.